Broadcasting from the Gaylord Rockies Resort in Denver, Colorado, Solutions Review is on location at Commvault GO 2019. Brought to you by Commvault.
It's Doug Atkinson, and we are here at the Commvault GO Village, and we're right in the middle of it, and it's very exciting because this is where everybody gathers. And fortunately, we also have one of our friends and a person who can give us some perspective on Commvault in general, but also how buyers might think about Commvault. That's Lance Shaw, and he is Director of Solutions Marketing at Commvault. Thanks for swinging by.
Hey, thanks, Doug. It's always great to be here.
It's good to see you again. We saw each other last year in Nashville, and this is even bigger still.
Yep.
And so, you know, our audience is our buyers, and the reason why we like to come to these things is because we get to see a real buyer's perspective, because they're people who purchased it all over the place. You have a perspective on that, and one of the messages we heard is really, as a buyer thinks about going to a next-gen solution like a Commvault, that they should be thinking a little bit more long-term and thinking more about platform versus point solution. I mean, what's your perspective on it?
Yeah, you know, we talked to a lot of customers from, you're right, all over the world, and a lot of them have gotten themselves into a situation where, you're right, they don't have one point solution, they have multiple point solutions, right? And it just sort of happens organically over time, and next thing you know, you turn around and you've got, you know, frankly, a little bit of a mess on your hands, right? So what we try to, you know, help people understand is you can still have the choice and the flexibility, but you can also simplify how you manage and deliver that information to the business via a single infrastructure and a single platform, right? So, and you have the flexibility and choice to do what you want when you want, right? So, you know, listen, everybody's talking about multi-cloud, right? As one example of many, and how they're going to manage that and how they deal with that, and that's where those point solutions come into play, and if I can get rid of those and think about my data long term, how I'm going to manage it long term, because nobody knows, you know, what they're going to be doing in 2024, 2025, probably, right? There's going to be all kinds of new data, new applications. Who knows?
Can you imagine what the world looked like 5 years ago?
Right,
I mean,
right, exactly.
It's
so
completely changed.
Yeah, so it's not. We don't have a crystal ball, unfortunately, but you might as well be smart about it. Set yourself up for success long term, and think about data management, data protection in a more holistic fashion. So. And a point solution is not a holistic approach, right? It's like just very narrowly focused, you know, like the blinders on. And when you take those off, start thinking about the rest of the business, that's when you can start planning more effectively.
Well, and the world is only getting more complex, and the data is getting more complex. And I guess what we've heard a lot as well is this idea of separating infrastructure from applications.
Right.
And that helps. If you have that mindset, it helps to start to ease some of the complexity, because you can be a little bit more flexible and you can start to do things that are going to streamline and create efficiencies within these fairly complex data environments.
Right. I know the keynote for this morning was live streamed, so maybe, you know, some viewers may have seen it, or it's available online at this point.
Sure.
You know, one of the things that we talked about was abstracting the applications from the infrastructure, so that I can. And to your point, you're right, it's absolutely a much more flexible environment, because most businesses, I don't want to know what's behind the curtain. I don't want to have to worry about that necessarily. Show me what the business value is and how I can make my applications more efficient, more effective, certainly, you know, more cost effective, right? And faster in a very competitive world. And anything I can do to increase that and improve that, that's terrific. But if I'm locked in and I'm stuck on a particular infrastructure, a particular environment, and now it just becomes wishful thinking. I wish I could move. I wish I could. Now I can't. So when you free that up and give yourself the flexibility to move the application and the data where you want, which is one of the things that we do really well, suddenly you've got. I can move the data and the application where I need it for the business, and I know I'm not locked in. Like, you know, so yeah, a couple of years from now, like, oh man, I really need to move this, you know, from point A to point B, from cloud vendor back on premises or what have you. I have that flexibility.
Well, and I think the other message we're hearing, and I think it's certainly a message we write about a lot, is the fact that now industrial strength, enterprise strength technologies is becoming available to a more a smaller organization, a mid-sized organization. I mean, Commvault is really telling a story now that says you can have all of this, and it's not out of your realm of possibility or reach.
Right, and that's a good point. Commvault, like any good innovative company, has evolved, right? And what we did 7
Well, and it's
years
evolved into
ago,
a leader in both Forrester and Gartner. I mean, it's no joke. You guys are.
Yeah, that's not a bad thing. Yeah,
it's an impressive thing.
And Sanjay in the keynote was pointing out how that's a lot of work. And I think some people just think, oh yeah, they did a little testing and they threw some dots on a grid. Oh no, it is really exhaustive. A huge amount of research, tons of customer inquiries about it, which is obviously lends incredible credence to the results. But to your point, the idea of choice and evolving from what was, it's just enterprises that would really have this complete holistic approach to data management protection. No, every business is important, and so that's why we have the announcement around Metallic IO. You have advancements in hyperscale. You have advancements in Commvault Complete. What you're seeing is a lot of improvements in the choices, or the amount of choices, that having the right choice, I guess I should say, for your particular business, because no business is the same. So let me start where I need to start, but set me up in a way that I can grow and expand and not be trapped a few years later.
Well, and I think customers now of all sizes expect a cloud story to come along with these larger solutions.
Yeah.
And so, they are expecting to be able to consider a solution like a Commvault where they might not have in the past because of infrastructure issues or whatever.
Right, or there was there's the now debunked myth of a Commvault is very complex or hard. Yes, it's so powerful, but wow, it must be hard to set up.
No, the Metallic
not really. No
presentation
and
this morning
yeah,
pretty much cleared that all up.
We made a ton of improvements there, right? And it's one of those conundrums where you're going to offer all kinds of great features, but you need to be able to present it in a way that is palatable for any given audience. I think. So that back, talking about the cloud, and for me, cloud is just an extension of your infrastructure. So, it used to be novel, now it's just commonplace, right? Multi-cloud is now the next thing, and then beyond that is that flexibility to move not just stories, not just files, but be able to move containers, application data where you need it to be, in a platform as a service model, and that flexibility now, that's where customers really are moving much more mission-critical data of whatever size, right? Again, this is not an enterprise thing anymore, right? This is just something that, if I want to be able to move to the cloud, and I'm a company with 500 employees, I can do it, and I still maintain control of my data. It's still your data, right? No matter whose server it's living on, it's still your data. You're responsible for it, and it's an easy to set up thing now.
Closing question for you, one that we're asking everybody actually is. What kind of advice would you offer up for folks looking at 2020, considering moving to a new solution? How would you suggest they get started, or maybe any pitfalls that they should think about avoiding? I mean, what would you offer as a piece of advice going forward?
Well, listen, that could be a very long answer, right? But I think having a strategy in place first, obviously doing your research, and no one, like I said, no one can predict, what's the future entirely holds in store for us. But we know from our current state that things are just going to progress. The data is not going to shrink. I'm pretty sure about that, right? Data growth is going to continue.
It doesn't seem to be.
I'd put some money on that one, right? So I can pretty much say that's going to happen. And the number of silos that will be created where that data resides is just going to increase as well. So you have to set yourself up so that you can manage that and have a strategy for how to account for that. You've got 3 clouds today, you're going to have 5 in 2 years. Just plan on it, right? And you're going to need to be able to move data back on premises. You're going to have to account for data sovereignty concerns as your business grows. Your data for your German office needs to stay in Germany, right? And so as you deal with the political and national landscape, you have to be able to account for where your data lives more and more, and where in the past you could get away with it. So that all comes back to a strategy that does not just evolve inside of IT. It is a CXO level conversation about how you want to manage data, what you're responsible for, because the C staff are now directly involved. Right? Before they might have just said, well, roll out an application in I have Office 365, great. Now it's, can you prove to me that we're going to be able to recover from a ransomware event with confidence, right? And your job is probably on the line. You have to be able to do that. And you have to be able to know where your data is at all times for GDPR and other compliance concerns. So that means a full understanding of the business. And sometimes you don't know what's going on in various parts of the organization, and you have to figure that out. So that data strategy, the collaboration across multiple departments.
Well, and compliance issues with regard to where your data is winding up, right, and what implications that has for some of these new data privacy regulations that folks are under. It's an incredibly complicated world that if you don't have complete visibility, you can get into trouble and not even realize how screwed you are.
You are. If you're failing to plan, you're planning to fail, right? It's an old adage, but it's really true in this landscape.
Yeah,
right?
Good. So, well, thanks for swinging by. That's great advice. It's always good to see you.
Right. Likewise.
We're having a great time here. Hope you enjoy the rest of the show, and see you next year.
All right, good deal.
All right, great. See ya.